in January, we had acquired a company in New Jersey called DHI, and there's a leader out there called Paul Schorber, and him and I became acquainted really quickly, generally every Monday morning, really early in the morning, on various blips or service disruptions throughout the day, and we've partnered and came together, and that's really what this story is about. So when Mohit came to me and said, let's talk about what we're doing with the core, I'm pretty humbled to be up here speaking to it. The track and the path that we went down, it's actually a lot of folks and a lot of folks in this room that helped make it successful. So want to kind of get on with it and show where we started. At the start of today's presentation, we went over kind of where we're at right now, but I think to get to where we're at right now, that's really the gist of what I want to be able to get through. And if I look at, the first half of the year and kind of what core means not only to TU, a lot of times for the products that we fulfill and the customers that we do business with, we are their sole solution to provide it. They rely on us 100%. So when we have blips or we have errors, not only am I impacting my peers and the businesses within TU, there are customers that obviously come to us that rely on us to fulfill their products. So as you can imagine, as we have outages throughout the year, or we have service disruptions throughout the year, things escalate not only internally, but also from a customer perspective. And a lot of times those customer calls become intense and they start asking like, hey, what's going on? How has that happened? And if you look at how we started the year, the equivalent I would give is if you were starting a race and you're going to start the finish line, start at the start line, and you kind of tripped. And it was impactful from the perspective of when we talk about transactions, when we talk about transactions that our customers go at, we sacrificed about 1 million transactions the first quarter of the year. Probably not how we intended to start the year. And definitely, there's lots of things that kind of went on. We could everything from maybe some system designs of core parts of the application. There were things in this process and the way that we were doing things and handling things, and just general, procedural things, across the board. So, if I look at how we started the year, we had about 1 million transactions that we lost throughout the core. If you look at the level of frequency that was happening, it was a consistent clip. Something was happening every month. As you can imagine, that's not a position of power with our customers. There's generally not a lot of excuse. We deal with a lot of vendors, and I know when I get on a call and something's happening, it happens to be a particular vendor, I know what's going through my head a lot of times, and I can only imagine the view of that starts happening with our customers. And I think where the light bulb went off, just because you get to hear some of the things from Sean's team and some of the requests that come in, we have one customer that actually started tracking down at a transaction level and was questioning at the milliseconds that we were responding to them at, because now their radar was up and their radar was high. So the pressure was increasing at the beginning of the year, and it was coming from all angles. So one of the things I want to get to, and this is to me a key management message, and if I had to say what was the keystone moment at the beginning of the year, this was it. The dates in the lower corner of the slide are the dates that the management team had an offsite. But the picture is from a natural disaster in 2004 off the coast of Sri Lanka. It was basically it's a picture of the tsunami coming into the coast, and it was a very tragic event. And I remember when I was, going through school and kind of going through some of this stuff that, this was one of the key learning points that stuck with me, and and having seen it play out here, I think it's important, and I think it's important for all of us that manage our environments and see things and look at things like it's the concept of having your feet on the ground. So in Sri Lanka, there were fatalities. It was definitely a grim situation, but one of the lessons learned in that is that animals generally survive the event. And the question was, when animals survive the event, why did animals survive the event? When a tsunami happens, there's a shift in the plates in the ocean. There's generally some sort of rumble. It could be an earthquake. It could be something. But that shake was felt by the animals because the animals had their feet on the ground, and they were taking in all the data, and they were looking around them to see what happened. So at the conclusion of that 3-4 month period that I had up there, we were all looking at each other in the eye and kind of wondering what are we going to do and how are we going to get this together. That date represents a leadership meeting that the GT leadership team had. They scrapped the agenda for the whole 2 days, and they invited us in to kind of walk through, what it is that we were doing and, what is the problem. Another thing I generally try to stress, the problem's not the problem is how you approach the problem. And what we wanted to do is basically get together and kind of walk through not only the events that are happening, but, what exactly, how do we need to kind of bring this thing together? This is a pretty basic drawing. I don't know how I got caught on the water theme here, but, we were clearly all in the same boat. And what happens a lot of times in the day-to-day as things go fast and we're going through things, it was either a network was doing something or the app team was doing a release or we had someone in support, driving something without communicating. And it became pretty clear that when we talk in terms of what it meant to be Core Online, it was much more than an application development effort. It was much more than just the 14 systems. It was every fabric, every part, every process, every component up and down the stack, how we communicate out, how things come in, what it means to make a service. And it seems obvious that, you would want to look at the whole and that you would do that, but we didn't have the discipline. We weren't looking at it in those terms. So although we were all in the same boat, another thing that came to be is, we had a problem we needed to solve, and how were we going to solve it? And what became clear really fast is we had a lot of folks operating in their role, but to get to where we wanted to be, and I took a quote up here from Scottie Pippen. I can't help it, I'm from Chicago, kind of stuck in the 90s. But, Scottie Pippen is one of the top 50 basketball players. He played with the greatest basketball player to ever live. I'm sorry, Brian, I had to throw that out there. But basically, his role on the team was to know his role on the team and kind of make the team successful. And what was going to become clear after the 2 days that we spent together as a management team was that we were going to have to approach things differently, and we were going to have to kind of fill different roles than maybe we have had before. So the output of that session, and I think all of you have felt some of the effects of that, and I'll go through some of the bigger ones, was how we were going to staff and how we were going to come together and how we do some of the day-to-day stuff. So what became clear is that the application and infrastructure teams were going to be one. We were going to unite together and kind of come under this concept of we were going to have a lead team. And that lead team was going to be assigned to only work on and look at things within Core Online. That has since been replicated through the environment, and we do those things. We looked at process. I don't think one process has been overhauled as much as the change process. And for those of you that know Evelyn, Jeff, and Nick, they've done a great job. Last time Troy was up here, he talked about Agile, and he talked about, giving gifts. I give Nick gifts every Wednesday between 1 and 3 o'clock on the change process and kind of what we're doing. But, it's been an evolution. It's been things that we've been committed to. And through that, what we've done is we put our feet on the ground collectively as an organization, and we go through every single change. We go through everything in a painful amount of detail, and we force the discipline, the repetitiveness, the preparation for what we do and how we do it. So that was a big win that came out of this. We also walked through every aspect of the architecture, every aspect of what we want to do, and we came up with a list of improvements. And that's not to say that things were necessarily broken the way they were designed, but it was that view, it was that standpoint of to get to the 4 nines, to get to the levels that we need to be at, there's going to have to be a strip down and we look at how we do things, whether it's, we look at storage a certain way, the database architecture a certain way, how we process a certain way. Those were big things. How we process also was a huge improvement. Everything from the level 1 operations team in the GOC to how we respond to errors. We have capabilities today that we haven't had before And you'll see the result of that here shortly, but, when we sense that an environment's at risk or things aren't going the way they're supposed to, we are now able to swing away from that and get to an environment that is stable and do that pretty frequently and automate it and pretty easily.